Are you running but not sure where the finish line is? What if the scoreboard you're chasing only exists in your head? Today, let's slow the rush and meet the moment we're standing in. Because your life isn't a race, it's what you notice right now. We live in a world that glorifies speed. From the moment we open our eyes, we are told to hurry, to do more, be more, and move faster. Success is often defined by how quickly you can climb a ladder that no one truly understands. Life becomes a constant sprint toward an invisible finish line. Yet, if you pause for just a moment and look around, you'll realize that this endless race is an illusion. There is no finish line waiting to crown you the winner. The horizon you chase keeps shifting further away, no matter how fast you run. It's like chasing a mirage in the desert. The closer you get, the more it disappears. This is the trap of living as if life were a race. You become so focused on getting there that you forget to live there. When you treat life as a competition, every moment becomes a measurement. You start to evaluate yourself against everyone else, their achievements, their possessions, their timelines. You begin to feel behind, as if your worth depends on how fast you can catch up. But the truth is, there's no universal timeline. Everyone is running their own race, at their own pace, and the finish line is different for all. The problem is that comparison blurs this truth. It convinces you that you must hurry, that stillness is failure, that slowing down means losing. In that constant rush, you sacrifice the beauty of presence. You rush through mornings, through meals, through conversations, through years. You stop hearing the music in your life because you're too busy chasing the next note. What's worse is that this race never ends. You graduate, you rush to get a job. You get a job, you rush for a promotion. You achieve the promotion, you rush to buy a house, then a bigger one. You chase relationship, status, recognition, all under the belief that somewhere ahead lies peace, happiness, and fulfillment. But peace doesn't live in the next destination. It lives here now, in the rhythm of your breath, in the quiet moments you keep overlooking. When life becomes about chasing horizons, you live in a constant state of almost there, almost happy, almost complete. The tragedy is that almost never ends because the horizon always moves. This race mindset also leads to exhaustion. The constant feeling that you must be doing more wears you down mentally, physically, and emotionally. You wake up tired, not because of what you've done, but because of the pressure of what you think you should be doing. You start to mistake movement for meaning. But true meaning doesn't come from speed. It comes from awareness. It's found in moments that don't earn trophies: watching the sunset, laughing with a friend, feeling the warmth of sunlight through a window. These are the quiet victories that the race teaches you to ignore. And yet, these are the only moments that truly make life worth living. To live like life isn't a race means to reclaim your right to be present. It means allowing yourself to breathe without guilt, to rest without feeling lazy, to move without needing to arrive. It's realizing that the value of a journey isn't measured by how quickly it ends, but by how deeply it's lived. It's the difference between rushing to the top of a mountain and walking it slowly, noticing every stone, every tree, every shift in wind. The first gets you there faster. The second lets you experience what there really means. In slowing down, you begin to see what you've been running past all along, your life itself. The truth is, life was never meant to be a race. It was meant to be an unfolding, a dance, not a sprint. The horizon you chase will never stop moving because it's not the destination that matters, it's the journey itself. The more you chase, the more life blurs into a series of unfinished moments. But when you slow down, the blur becomes vivid again. You start to feel alive, not because you're ahead of anyone, but because you're finally here. So stop running. Look around. The finish line you've been chasing doesn't exist, but the moment you're in right now, that's real, that's life, and that's enough. We live in a world obsessed with measuring progress. From the moment we are old enough to walk, talk, or learn, we are compared. First by parents, then by teachers, then by society. Someone is always faster, richer, smarter, or seemingly further ahead. Slowly, almost without noticing, we begin to equate speed with worth. We start believing that our value as a person is defined by how quickly we achieve things, how soon we arrive, how much we've done compared to others. But this is one of the greatest lies we are taught. Your worth has nothing to do with your pace. It is not determined by the timelines others follow, nor by the milestones they reach before you. The idea that you must move at a certain speed to be valuable is like standing in quicksand. The more you struggle to prove yourself, the deeper you sink. Comparison steals more than time. It steals peace. It turns your focus outward, convincing you that your happiness depends on where you stand in someone else's story. You look at their achievements, their lifestyle, their appearance, and you begin to shrink in your own eyes. You start running faster, pushing harder, trying to catch up to a race you were never meant to run. But comparison is not a fair game, it's built on illusion. What you see of others is only the surface, the highlight reel, not the full picture. You don't see the failures, the doubts, the nights of questioning. You only see the finish line they've crossed, not the struggles they faced getting there. And so you race against a shadow, losing sight of your own unique journey. The truth is, no two lives unfold the same way. Nature itself is proof of that. A tree that grows slowly is no less beautiful than one that grows quickly. Some flowers bloom in spring, others wait for autumn. Yet each fulfills its purpose in perfect timing. You don't look at a mountain and wish it rose faster. You admire its stillness, its strength, its presence. So why do we treat ourselves differently? Why do we measure our value by how fast we move or how much we've achieved by a certain age? The pace of your growth does not define its depth. In fact, some of the most profound transformations happen in silence, over time, unseen by the world. When you stop comparing, you begin to rediscover yourself. You realize that life isn't about keeping up. It's about aligning. It's about finding your rhythm and walking in it with peace. When you stop measuring yourself against others, you make space for your own growth to unfold naturally. You start to appreciate progress in its true sense, not how fast you go, but how deeply you live. You begin to celebrate small victories that others may overlook. The courage to begin again, the patience to heal, the faith to keep moving even when no one notices. These quiet steps are where real strength lives. Comparison also blinds you to your own blessings. When your eyes are always on what others have, you forget what you already hold. Gratitude fades and restlessness takes over. You become driven not by inspiration but by insecurity. The faster you move, the more you lose touch with your essence. But when you slow down and honor your pace, you find balance again. You start to see that being behind doesn't mean being less. It simply means your path has a different rhythm, and that rhythm is perfectly yours. Your worth isn't something to be earned through speed or competition. It's something you were born with. It exists whether you're soaring ahead or still finding your footing. It's in your kindness, your resilience, your authenticity. The world might measure you by results, but your soul measures you by truth. So release the need to compare, to compete, to prove. You are not running late for your own life. You are right on time. When you embrace your unique pace, you begin to move with peace instead of pressure, love instead of lack. That is when life stops feeling like a race and starts feeling like living. In a world where everything moves faster by the second, slowing down feels almost rebellious. We're told that success belongs to the busiest, that worth comes from constant movement, and that resting is a sign of falling behind. Yet, in our endless rush to keep up, we've forgotten how to live. Life isn't meant to be a blur of deadlines and destinations. It's meant to be felt, experienced, and savored. True living isn't found in how fast we move, but in how deeply we experience each moment. Speed may take you places, but depth allows you to actually live there. When you slow down, you begin to see life not as a checklist to complete, but as a series of sacred pauses, each filled with meaning if only you have the patience to notice. There's something powerful about slowing your pace and paying attention to the smallest details. The rhythm of your breathing, the way sunlight filters through the trees, the laughter that fills a room for a fleeting second. These are the pieces that make life beautiful. But most people miss them. They're too focused on what's next, too consumed with where they think they need to be. We spend so much of our time planning for the future that we forget the only place we can actually live is the present. You can't experience joy tomorrow. You can't breathe yesterday. Life only ever happens now, and yet we rush through it as if the next moment will be better than this one. The truth is, living fast doesn't mean living fully. In fact, it often means the opposite. When you move too quickly, you skim the surface of life. You see, but you don't observe. You hear, but you don't listen. You touch, but you don't feel. You go through experiences without absorbing their essence. You reach milestones without remembering the journey. You may accomplish more, but you feel less. That's because meaning doesn't come from quantity, it comes from quality. It's not about how many moments you have. It's about how deeply you live each one. Slowing down doesn't mean you stop progressing. It means you start progressing differently. You begin to measure your life not by how much you've achieved, but by how much you've experienced with awareness. When you walk instead of run, you notice the way the wind feels against your skin. When you eat slowly, you taste the fullness of your meal. When you speak with someone and give them your undivided attention, you connect in a way that speed never allows. These are not wasted moments. They are the very essence of life. They're what you remember long after the achievements fade. In the silence of slowing down, clarity begins to bloom. You start to realize that the things you've been chasing, success, approval, recognition, were never the true destination. What you were really seeking was peace, fulfillment, and presence, and those can only be found when you stop running long enough to notice them. The more you slow down, the more you begin to feel aligned with yourself. your thoughts quiet, your body relaxes, and your spirit starts to breathe again, you discover that there's a richness in simplicity that rushing can never give you. Our culture praises efficiency, but life isn't meant to be efficient. It's meant to be lived. The soul doesn't care how quickly you move through experiences. It cares how honestly you experience them. A single moment of genuine laughter, a heartfelt conversation, or the quiet comfort of stillness can nourish you more than a lifetime of constant motion. The depth of your life is found in these pauses, not in the speed of your achievements. So slow down, take a breath, and let it remind you that being alive isn't about how fast your heart beats, but how deeply you feel each beat. Notice the light, the laughter, the stillness. They are not distractions from your journey. They are the journey. The world will keep spinning whether you rush or not, but your moments will not wait forever. Don't let them pass you by in the name of progress. Because in the end, it's not how fast you live that will matter. It's how deeply you did. For most of our lives, we've been taught that progress means moving upward and forward, no matter the cost. We measure our worth by achievements, promotions, possessions, and recognition. We chase the next milestone thinking it will finally bring peace, only to find that the satisfaction fades as quickly as it arrives. This endless climb leaves us exhausted, disconnected, and often empty. The truth is, progress isn't just about advancing, it's about aligning. It's not about how much you achieve, but about what you sacrifice and what you nurture along the way. Redefining progress means choosing balance over burnout, choosing meaning over motion, and remembering that success without peace is just another form of failure. There comes a moment when you realize that the pace you're keeping isn't sustainable. You wake up tired, mentally cluttered, emotionally drained, and yet you keep pushing because that's what the world expects. But progress that costs your health, your relationships, and your joy isn't progress, it's self-destruction disguised as ambition. True progress respects your humanity. It recognizes that rest is not weakness, that slowing down is not quitting, and that saying no is sometimes the most powerful form of growth. You cannot build a fulfilling life on a foundation of exhaustion. When you begin to honor your limits, you start to move from a place of strength rather than survival. Balance doesn't mean doing less. It means doing what matters most. It's about directing your energy toward things that nourish your spirit instead of depleting it. Spend time with those who make you feel grounded. Protect your mental peace with the same passion you protect your goals. Take care of your body, because no achievement can replace your health. Learn to say no to opportunities that look good but don't feel right. You don't have to chase everything. What's meant for you will meet you when you're ready. Progress is not found in endless striving, it's found in alignment with purpose. When your actions match your values, you move through life with clarity, not chaos. There's a quiet power in redefining success on your own terms. It takes courage to step off the treadmill of constant achievement and ask yourself, is this making me whole, or just keeping me busy? Our culture glorifies the hustle, but rarely celebrates stillness, reflection, or contentment. Yet these are the spaces where real transformation happens. When you give yourself permission to pause, you reconnect with what truly matters. Your family, your creativity, your health, your faith, your joy. These are not distractions from success, they are the essence of it. Pursuing soul-feeding work without obsession means working with purpose, not pressure. It means showing up with passion but also knowing when to rest. It's the difference between doing something because you love it and doing it because you fear falling behind. When you act from love, you expand. When you act from fear, you shrink. The most successful people aren't those who never stop working. They're the ones who know how to step away, reflect, and return renewed. Balance doesn't dull your ambition, it refines it. It teaches you to focus on what truly deserves your energy. When you redefine progress, life starts to feel lighter. You no longer measure your days by how much you've accomplished, but by how present you've been. You stop rushing through experiences and start living within them. You find beauty in slower mornings, meaning in small victories, and fulfillment in quiet evenings spent with loved ones. You realize that true success is not something you chase, it's something you cultivate from within. So let the world rush. Let others chase their idea of progress. You have nothing to prove to anyone. Choose balance, choose health, choose peace. Redefine progress as living in harmony with yourself, as nurturing what feeds your soul instead of draining it. Because in the end, the real measure of progress is not how far you've gone, but how deeply you've lived. Stillness is one of the hardest things to practice in a world that never stops moving. We are surrounded by noise, digital noise, emotional noise, mental noise, all urging us to do more, move faster, stay visible, stay productive. The idea of slowing down or standing still feels unnatural, even dangerous, as if the moment we pause, life will leave us behind. But stillness is not a sign of weakness. It's not laziness or lack of ambition. It's courage in its purest form. the courage to stop running and face yourself. It takes strength to step off the track while everyone else keeps racing, to sit in silence and confront the questions that constant motion has kept buried beneath the surface. When you slow down, the first thing you notice is the discomfort. The mind resists quiet. It looks for distractions, for something to do, for noise to fill the space. That's because stillness exposes what busyness hides. In the quiet, you begin to hear your own thoughts, your doubts, your fears, the ache of things you haven't dealt with. You start to question the path you're on, the goals you're chasing, and the reasons behind your endless striving. These are not easy questions. Who am I without my work? What am I really chasing? Am I living a life that feels true to me? Most people never stop long enough to ask them, because the answers might require change. But it's in the very act of asking that you begin to rediscover yourself. Stillness is where clarity begins. When you step out of the race, even for a moment, you realize that much of what you've been chasing was never essential. You start to see the difference between what is urgent and what is important. The noise of comparison fades, and in its place comes a softer voice, your own. It whispers what you truly need: rest, authenticity, peace, connection. You realize that happiness isn't waiting somewhere at the finish line. It's found in the rhythm of your own heartbeat, in the quiet awareness that you are already enough. You don't have to keep proving your worth by running faster. You were worthy before you began the race. It takes courage to trust stillness because it goes against everything society celebrates. The world rewards speed, not serenity. It praises productivity, not presence. But if you spend your whole life running, you may reach impressive heights and still feel empty inside. The paradox is that when you stop chasing life, life starts meeting you where you are. The opportunities, the insights, the peace you've been seeking, they come when you create space for them. Stillness is that space. It's the pause between breaths, the quiet between storms, the moment when your soul finally has room to speak. In stillness, you learn the power of enough. You realize that you don't need to fill every second, please everyone, or prove anything. You stop measuring yourself by how much you do and start valuing yourself for who you are. The more you sit with yourself, the more you understand that life doesn't need to be perfect to be precious. The beauty of stillness is that it reveals abundance in simplicity. The taste of morning coffee, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of your own breathing. These small things start to feel like gifts again. Finding your rhythm in life means moving in tune with what feels natural, not what feels pressured. It means saying yes only to what aligns with your heart, and no to what drains your spirit. You learn that there is a time for movement and a time for rest, and both are sacred. The world may not understand your pace, but that's okay, it wasn't meant to. Stillness reconnects you to your own timing, your own truth, your own rhythm. And in that rhythm, you find peace that no amount of running can bring. So dare to pause, dare to breathe, dare to sit in silence long enough to remember who you are without the noise. The answers you seek won't always come through motion. They often arrive quietly in moments of stillness. When you finally give yourself permission to just be, everything in nature moves in rhythms and seasons. Nothing blooms all year, and nothing grows without rest. Trees shed their leaves, the tide rises and falls, the sun sets so that it can rise again. Yet we, unlike nature, often demand constant progress from ourselves. We want every day to be productive, every season to bring results, every effort to show visible growth. But life doesn't work like that. The human spirit, much like the earth, needs cycles of expansion and stillness, of creation and renewal. To trust the seasons of your life means to let go of the panic that tells you you're falling behind, and to believe instead that everything unfolds in its time. When you understand this, you move with presence instead of pressure, and that shift brings a quiet kind of freedom. When we lose touch with life's natural rhythm, we start to force what was meant to flow. We try to make things happen before their time: relationships, success, healing, growth. And in doing so, we create frustration. It's like trying to make a flower bloom by pulling its petals open. The beauty of a garden lies not just in its flowers, but in the patience it takes to watch them grow. You cannot rush spring. You can only tend to the soil, water the roots, and trust that when the season is right, everything will bloom exactly as it should. The same is true for your life. There are seasons of growth, where everything moves quickly, and seasons of waiting where nothing seems to change. Both are essential. One builds momentum, the other builds depth. The spiral of life is not linear, it curves, revisits, deepens. You may find yourself returning to old lessons, facing familiar challenges, or rediscovering forgotten dreams. That doesn't mean you're moving backward. It means you're evolving. Each time you circle back, you see the same truth from a higher vantage point, with more wisdom and understanding. Growth rarely happens in straight lines. It's a spiral, always expanding inward and outward at once. When you trust this spiral, you stop demanding immediate answers and start appreciating the slow unveiling of truth. You begin to understand that every delay, every detour, is part of your unfolding. Presence is the key to peace. When you move with presence, you stop fighting the current and start flowing with it. You become attentive to where you are rather than anxious about where you're going. You start noticing the details that rushing makes invisible. The tone of a loved one's voice, the texture of the air after rain, the way small things remind you of grace. Life begins to feel less like a race and more like a dance. And just like in a dance, you can't rush the rhythm, you must move with it. Panic is the enemy of presence. It tells you that you're running out of time, that you must hurry or you'll miss your chance. But panic comes from forgetting that life is cyclical. Just as winter always turns to spring, your quiet seasons will always lead to renewal. The calm between achievements is not emptiness, it's preparation. The waiting you dread is not wasted, it's strengthening your roots. When you trust that life knows what it's doing, even when you don't, you begin to relax into its pace. Freedom is born when you no longer fight the timing of your life. Peace comes when you no longer demand constant motion. Trusting the seasons doesn't mean giving up. It means aligning with what's real. It means knowing that your life, like a tree in the forest, doesn't need to compete to grow. It simply stands nurtured by the same sun and rain that touch everything else. Your time will come, your season will arrive, and your spiral will unfold in perfect rhythm. Move with presence, not panic. Let each season teach you, and you'll find that peace was never something to chase. It was always what waited for you when you finally slowed down. Life was never meant to be a race, a contest, or a constant sprint towards some invisible finish line. All along it was meant to be lived, deeply, consciously, and presently. The greatest tragedy is not moving too slowly, it's rushing so fast that you miss the miracle of being here. Every breath, every sunrise, every laugh shared with someone you love. These are not small moments, they are the essence of existence. When you stop measuring your worth by speed and success, when you stop comparing your timeline to someone else's, something profound happens. Time slows down, and peace begins to bloom. You realize that your journey doesn't need to look like anyone else's. You begin to see that progress isn't about getting ahead. It's about growing inward. You start honoring rest, balance, and stillness as much as ambition and effort. You learn to trust the natural rhythm of your life, the same way a tree trusts the seasons or a garden trusts the rain. You understand that there's no rush to arrive, because there was never anywhere else you needed to be. When you move with presence instead of panic, when you replace hurry with awareness, you step into true freedom, the freedom to live on your own terms, to breathe without guilt, to find joy without chasing it. And in that peace, you discover the quiet truth that was waiting for you all along. You were never behind, you were never late, and you never had to prove anything. You were always exactly where you were meant to be, right here, right now, living the only moment that truly exists.